Greetings and salutations once again. This is the Dorman Podcast. We are your Dorman. My name is Evangelist.
Steven in the building.
And we are back for another episode in 2023.
Wow.
I don't know about you, Steven, but this, to be here in 2023 is like a blur. Saying the year 2023 is it's kind of surreal.
Well, it's crazy to think about, like the movie Back to the Future went to the year 2000,
right?
And they had flying cars.
What about those movies like titled 2005?
Yeah.
Or 2010 or 20, right? And
well, Back to the Future was in the 80s, right?
We were in the 80s.
So far ahead to 2000, there were flying cars. Self-tying shoes.
We thought we'd see flying cars.
Inflatable jackets.
Right. The hoverboards.
Instant
the hoverboards that we
airtime.
thought we'd be seeing versus the hoverboards we actually saw.
Right.
What a joke.
Yeah. I mean...
What a joke, dude. I thought we were going to be seeing these things actually levitating 3 feet from the ground. Let's say 2 feet. Mm-hmm. Right? 1.5 feet. No. They're on wheels.
Well, also, too, like Back to the Future, it was in the 80s, and when you think about the 80s, you don't even think about 2023, right? It's so far away.
Right.
So far. 2001 Space Odyssey, those kind of things. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to be where we are now and still be harping on some of the same shit when harping on the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Right. We turn back the tide we turn back time and listen to people like President Ronald Reagan speak and think, oh, wow, he's saying things that are valid today. They're relevant today, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was you that sent me that clip about with Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I mean, and that was in 2009, that clip. We won't get into it because we don't want to be...
Right. We don't want to be
beating that horse again.
Jesus, because we can beat that horse.
I think we've beat the horse and revived it.
As you said,
at least.
As you said last
least a dozen times.
Yeah.
So we won't go there.
Yeah, because we can definitely jump. Because they're out there. These videos out there. These little short reels or the shorts on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They're out there of people like Steven and I who hold these thoughts about the stupidity that's going on out there, and we're like, oh my God, please.
It is
get
crazy.
a clue.
It is nuts.
Yeah. So a lot of things, a lot of things that we were talking about 2 years ago, it's all true. And
we don't want to say we were right.
Yeah,
but
I wasn't even gonna pat myself on the back, but
I'll do it for you.
Thank you, Steven.
Not one to say I told you.
Yeah,
but I told you.
Well, so lately we've been wanting to bring, because listen, what better way to combat the stupidity, what better way than to bring out like real truth, real truths, right?
Right.
So last time we spoke on the power of language, and man, you can see the power in language on both sides. On whatever side you stand on any argument, you can see the power of language in action, right? You can see how persuasive people can be in debates using the power of language. So, we spoke on language last episode. Today, we've decided to kind of lighten things up a little bit and talk about the impact of laughter.
Yeah.
How impactful laughter is.
I mean, they do say laughter is the best medicine, right?
Right.
That's the old adage.
It is. It's not only a medication or a medicine of sorts, but it's a weapon. It's a disarming thing, right? When you make someone laugh, I don't care how angry or hell bent on harm they intend you. When you make them laugh, you've absolutely disarmed them.
Well, yeah,
right?
I mean, what laughter is like, when you make somebody laugh, you've broken down whatever sense of guarding they have or whatever wall they have up. Because it's not easy to make a room full of people laugh.
Not in my case.
As you know.
I'm definitely not the laughy guy. I mean, I look funny, but can I say something and willingly or make people laugh on call? I cannot.
I would say in a crowded room, if you're on stage, you're either singing or you're a Joel Osteen type individual.
I am going to preach the good word.
And also sing Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Fly me to the moon. Yep. Wait. I mean, that's what I do. Steven, on the other hand, he'll not only sing to you, but he brings the laughter.
It is a lot of it is sarcasm, but to tempt the room, right? In a situation that some would deem uncomfortable, a moment of levity, right? A moment of pause in the situation when people can just not think about that situation for a few seconds and laugh is huge.
Right. I mean, you told the story of the funeral you attended.
Yes.
And whenever I go to funeral services, if someone is brave enough or presents courage enough to bring laughter to the room, man, and it's successful. It's not an awkward experience.
Right.
Man, how great of a experience that's had in that.
Well, because like I said, for a moment, a brief moment, you're not thinking of the situation.
Right.
You're concentrating on the joke. You're concentrating on the room laughing or chuckling or, again, that moment of levity that separates the seriousness of whatever situation you're going through, and then it's a temporary sigh relief.
That was the worst laugh ever.
What I can't duplicate people's laughter because it's guttural.
Right.
It's a deep down guttural laughter that I bring out of people.
Yeah.
But it's situations like if you're going through something serious happens at work, right? Like there was a situation at my job last week. A situation arose that people were like, "Wow, what are we gonna do? Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. What's this?" And I'm like, "What are you gonna do?" Right? I mean, it's like, what can you do? And then somebody say, "How can you laugh?" And I'm like, my mind is like, "How can you not?" It's such a ridiculous situation. What transpired at my job, that all you can do is laugh about it.
I mean, a lot of times in awkward interactions, right, or when you're in an interaction with people that you may not necessarily know, like oftentimes the escape is kind of like in awkward laughter.
Right.
You always hear about I think I told you about when men approach women, right, and if they don't necessarily have that suave bag of tricks verbally, right, the one thing that will work for them is laughter, making a woman laugh. Right. It's almost the same. I think I told you, it's almost the same effect as if you were to have a few drinks, right? And you guys were, it brings that, it brings those defenses down, brings that guard down. It opens her up to you, right? Or opens her up to having an experience with you, whatever that experience may be.
And also real laughter, like I said, real guttural laughter, that brings tears to somebody's eyes, or a laugh that lasts a long time, is probably, as you say, equal to a few drinks, because when you make somebody really laugh, like where they're not trying to hide the fact that they snort when they laugh, or hide the fact that they have a high pitch when they laugh, or whatever, right? That moment of when again their guard is down is when you've broken through that barrier, and I believe that's the first step in trusting somebody who you if they can make you laugh, then they can make you do anything.
What's funny is my two children have the most when they're really laughing, they have these high pitched laughs, and when it comes out, you're like, you stop laughing because you're like, what the hell just came out of your mouth? Yeah, but I mean, like, and laughter is contagious, right? Like,
Right.
if you're in a room full of laughing people, it's hard to keep a straight face.
Right.
It's hard to be
Unless
like,
you're the bouncer.
yeah.
Then you can really,
Yeah. It's so disarming. It's such a weapon.
Right.
You can, if you utilize it as a weapon and you know what you're doing, it could work. It's effective.
Right. And I don't claim to be any sort of high profile comedian, but I know when situations need laughter. I can tell when, like, a sarcastic remark or a little joke or something is going to break down the awkwardness in whatever room I'm in. And it tends to break that ice where people start to talk and people will start to communicate about issues. People start to just, again, let their guard down. And I'm pretty good at reading people too, so I know what to say, what not to say. You're not going to go into a room full of, people that are pissed off about, the lack of raises at their job and talk about how you just got one.
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
You're going to provoke a
Right. Then they're going to.
You're going to be in the middle of a beatdown.
Then there's a fine line between that, like I say, temping the room that's going to either break that awkward silence or raise that wall higher. And it's.
You know what? Let's talk about the people who search to bring laughter, right? Like comedians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Comedians. What kind of stigma is attached to comedians usually?
Well, I think most comedians are looked at as people who've had struggles in their life because most of their material is about shitty situations that they tend to put a different light on to make the room laugh.
Okay.
Like Bill Burr, his dad was not the nicest guy. Bobby Lee,
a bad drinker.
Bobby Lee was his childhood was twisted 6 ways from Sunday. The George Lopez, who uses family experiences that most people who are of Latin descent can be like, holy shit, that's my fucking, that's exactly what it is. But, you use experiences, good or bad, mostly bad, I think. And you have to be a little bit nuts to be a comedian, I think.
I believe so.
You have to be a little bit crazy.
They always attach like a little bit of a mental, I don't want to say mental illness.
Like a sociopath. Jim Carrey.
You think he's a sociopath?
I think Jim Carrey, I think Jim Carrey's always been the way he is now, and he just masked it with humor, and it was dry humor and sick humor.
So compare the Jim Carrey, like, okay, it's again, we're no experts on who these people are, but compare the Jim Carrey, your observation of Jim Carrey today versus the In Living Color, Ace Ventura.
So that was
Jim
more physical comedy, right? More outlandish hair, wild outfits, crazy characters, shock value comedy, as opposed to Jim Carrey now, who is probably always felt the way he is, but he's talking about we're in a matrix and nothing matters and we don't even exist. We're just on a cloud floating through the wind. I think that's the person that when the cameras go off and the lights are off, that's the real Jim Carrey. Like, it's always been that way. But he used that as a platform to get where he is, to get the status that he is, where he can now say whatever he wants, and people say, oh, that's just Jim Carrey.
Right.
Where if that was Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise saying that, they're like, he's lost his fucking mind. He's gone.
Right.
He's lost it.
Right. So, I mean, I think he set himself up to be in a position to say whatever the hell he wants now.
Right. And I mean, being a comedian, I mean, you don't have a filter, right? You can go into you can be doing a comedy thing at a women's group and say, man, these fucking feminism's bullshit, huh? And then it's like Jim Carrey said in a
Well,
room full of
it
women.
used to be that way where comedians could say anything, right? And
Right.
then you could just chalk it up to they're just being funny. It's comedy. It's don't take it seriously. It's nothing that should incite any type of hatefulness or
Right.
or feelings.
Right.
In general. But now, right? They've definitely gotten a bad rap from Dave Chappelle.
Well, again, because their comedy goes against what the narrative is now,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But if you look at Dave Chappelle's comedy, he's always said things like this. He's always said things about, I mean, now it's trans, but he's always said things about gay people, lesbians going up to him in bars, like,
Yeah.
trying to,
Getting in a
Yeah.
fight with a lesbian.
Right.
Yeah.
but he's always said shit like that. So, you got to give props to people like Dave Chappelle, the Joe Rogans, who don't let this woke
Right.
culture
Right.
affect their
comedy,
their
their
message.
brand of it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And then there's a whole, the other comedians who kind of fall right in line with the woke narrative. They fall in line with, promoting the leftist ideas.
Right, but those ones are I mean, go
No, you-
woke, go broke, right?
Right.
That's the new thing. I mean, you can't please everybody,
Right.
And when you try to please only one side of the fence, and that one side is not the larger number, you've lost a big number of fans. That's the George Lopez's, the I mean, I don't even know anybody who's really not following their old ways. Like, he's the only one I could off the top of my head.
Remember guys though, like back in the day. Remember guys like Andrew Dice Clay,
Yeah.
who did not give a flying fuck about anyone's feelings, about anyone's. That's when comedy was pure, right?
Right.
Because no one took it seriously enough. Yeah, he was offensive. Yeah, he was kind of a douche. His character anyway, super douche, but did not care, right?
Mhm.
And it didn't matter whether you felt like offended or you felt or you gave him a laugh. It did not matter. He was doing his bit, and that's what mattered. Or Sam Kinison,
Right.
who was almost the at one point he was a preacher,
Right.
and then he went from that being a preacher to this coke filled comedian,
Right.
right? And then so he had this great run, and then the coke got the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, Andrew Dice Clay was one of those ones that would take current, like his nursery rhymes, right?
Mhm.
Like Andrew Dice Clay's nursery rhymes.
Hickory Dickory Dock.
Yeah, he would take something that was existence, make it his own, but also make it raunchy enough to be like, oh my god, I can't believe you said that, but it's
Right.
pretty fucking funny,
Right, right.
Like Little Miss
Funny,
Muffet sat
right.
on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider, sat down beside her, and said, "What's in the bowl, bitch?" I mean, that kind of shit.
Whoa.
Back then. And even now, I think people are, if they just knock off the bullshit, right? If they just go back to, let's have a good time and not worry about who a joke may offend and just laugh in the moment,
Right.
I think a lot of issues just tend to fall by the wayside. But unfortunately, a lot of people are so concerned about being filmed, being recorded, being on tape somehow, laughing at a joke that somehow may or may not, oppress somebody, that it's like there's not even any point in comedy anymore.
I mean, it's really gotten to a point where talking period, it's people are guarded by every word that comes out of their mouth, right?
Right.
And then like you and I were discussing last week, people are so kind of twisted by this idea
Right.
that they don't even know that their promotion of anti-racism becomes racist, right? They don't even know. So it's causing this like backwards effect, right? Like where they're hoping that they're not offensive, or they're fighting. As a matter of fact, they are like in debates and arguments in war with people verbally
Right.
about not offending, making another group of people or making another person feel a
Right.
certain way when their words literally
Right.
have the power to or have the what they're saying is offensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's a couple articles that have been sent to me by a friend that when you read them, you're just like, I can't believe this is real. Like, this almost has to be comedy, that it's so far-fetched, so stupid. But then when you read it and it's published by the New York Times and it's quoted by somebody and there's people who interview and there's somebody who wrote the article. Somebody wrote an article that the NFL is inherently racist due to the violence on black men.
Oh, shit.
And it was a legitimate article.
Yeah.
And you and I laugh
Yeah.
because we don't have that veil of like offense, because it's funny to think about, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
You know what's funny is the way we respond with laughter to all of this idiocracy,
Mm-hmm.
the stupidity that people are displaying and expressing.
Right.
Like we literally have first world problems, and the expression of first world problems is laughable.
Right.
Right? When you think about, let's talk about the struggle they're going through in Iran. We don't want to laugh about any of that, but our response, like when people are so offended that they would like go out in protest, at go out in protest for like, let's say any of the LGBT Q issues, right? When that becomes so offensive, when they want, they want equity in treatment, equity in outcome, equity of all sorts of things, right? And then there's women who have zero rights in a country like Iran,
Right.
in some of these, religious countries that practice, rules of Islam.
Right.
There's zero rights being given to women out there, right? And we're here crying when we have the most equitable, if that's the word to use, like equitable system.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Also, you have the right to even make that choice here, right? Like women who are in different countries, religious underlying tones countries, don't have the right to say, I feel like a man.
Right.
If you're born a woman, you better start having kids, and you better do certain things that are in that particular culture are expected of women. You don't have the right to make that decision. You don't have the right to say, I identify as in a different country, right?
Sure.
So, there's a quote here that says, a well-balanced person is one who finds both sides of an issue laughable. And, I mean, that's pretty
relevant.
relevant.
Super relevant to our situation here in 2023 in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, with all that's going on, there is really no other response than laughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't really take any other action than to laugh.
Right.
Because,
An optimist laughs to forget. A pessimist forgets to laugh.
Oh shit! That's a good one.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
A little bit
Tom.
of wordplay.
Thanks, Tom Nansberry. Whoever you may be.
Who is Tom Nansberry?
Couldn't tell you.
I'm pretty sure that's somebody we should know.
Well,
I'm pretty sure someone's gonna, tell us, run into us and say, hey, you know what who Tom Nansberry is? Herbert.
Too soon.
Whoa.
Anyway.
Lay off,
so.
my buddy.
So.
Hey guys, Chargers, still love you, brother. You
Yeah.
blew a 27-point lead, but still love you, brother. I mean,
Wow.
whoa. I can't laugh at that. There's
I laugh.
no. Well, of course you laugh.
Because I found both sides of an issue laughable on that one. Your offense and your defense.
Oh shit.
So I
You're
got
gonna be here all night, folks.
a joke story for you, and I won't
All right.
name any names to protect the
Protect the innocent participants.
protect the participants. But I was telling a story of why I particularly don't use wash rags in the shower.
Okay.
So this person asked me why, and I said, well, let me ask you this question. Let's say I take a shower first and you take a shower right behind me. What's the last thing I wash with the wash rag?
Right.
And this individual said, your ass. I said, okay. And what's the first thing you wash with that wash rag right after me? And she said, my face. And I went, and this individual laughed so hard, I shit you not, this individual peed their pants.
Oh, I bet.
And
I bet.
I think that in the comic world is where you hang up the mic.
That's a mic drop.
I mean, right? But things like that, like when you're telling a story, like you and I bullshit a lot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when we're at the door. I mean, you have to bring some comedy to, like,
It's a must.
Every
It's
situation
a
that
must.
you do.
Yeah. Especially dealing with you. You're a fucking. Yeah.
Sarcasm. My finest quality.
Yeah.
And I do respect the Chargers for this one fact. They are laughable.
A lot of mistakes. Young coach, a lot of mistakes.
You know what I can tell you? My Chiefs will avenge the Chargers next year for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I really didn't expect Jacksonville to do much.
I'll tell you, I don't know what happened.
Although Trevor Lawrence, young dude, coming out of Clemson, I did have high expectations.
Let me ask you this question. How does this individual throw 4 interceptions in the game and
Right,
still win?
and still win. In the first half, in one half.
4 picks.
In one half.
I mean, your team might have had the most
Dropped
epic
the ball. Man.
fumble.
They
of
say
the
this
game.
is the third greatest comeback in the history of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. You know who the other 2 belong to? Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Oh no, one's Tom Brady in the Super Bowl,
Right.
and the other one is Patty Mahomes against the Texans. We were down 20,
Oh,
24
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
and
okay.
won that game.
Remember that.
48-30.
I don't remember the final score, but I remember.
Oh, I remember the final score.
Of course you remember the final
But anyway,
score. Of course you remember the final
so
score.
yeah, laughter tends to bring. See, he's upset. Deep down inside, you're upset the Chargers aren't in.
Of
But
course I'm upset.
we can laugh and joke that
Of course.
your coach is terrible.
27 points, bro.
Your coach is terrible.
I mean, you turn off the TV at that point. Because
did.
it's not even, it's 27 point lead. It's like
just something that's not common.
what did our boy Chuck used to say? The Jello's jiggling.
Chick Hearn.
Chick Hearn.
The eggs are cool and the Jello's jiggling. The butter's hardening.
Man, that
was it.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's at that point, 27 point lead. You're like, yo, it's a wrap. Let's go.
At half, no? Or was it 27-7
At half.
at the half?
At half.
I
No.
mean-
Actually, they came back and scored at the end of the half, and then that's when you're like, oh shit.
But it was 27-7 at the end of the half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, you're like, oh wow, they can.
And then they go up and put 28 on them. Anyway, so laughter, folks. You gotta find the humor
Thanks.
in every situation. I
mean, humor is definitely it's going to get you into situations you want to get into, as we're talking about with interactions with the opposite sex, interactions with a group of people, right? Like if you were to approach a group of strangers, right? You come in with a joke, you're 95% more likely to create your in with these people after you've made them laugh than if you just come in with shining all of your accolades. Right. The idea that it can disarm a person or a group of people.
Right.
It has such an effect.
Well, that's how you look at like people like Rob Schneider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adam Sandler.
Right.
Guys are funny, and their wives are dimes.
Right.
And you're
Right.
just like,
I mean,
how?
we've heard it said many times by beautiful women that if a guy were able to, make them laugh, it's a wrap.
Right.
Panties gone.
Right. I mean, that's I mean, those two individuals I just said. Adam Sandler seems to be a decent guy. Maybe that his kindness too wraps up in that.
Yeah.
But Rob Schneider's like 6 inches off from Akeelah Elf.
Okay.
David Spade, right?
David Spade. Yeah.
What's the other fucking doof? As always, Andy Dick. How that guy gets laid in anyway?
Whoa! Andy Dick is.
No.
He looks the dudes.
He's a bisexual, but he's got children by some dime pieces.
Because I thought he liked.
But again, like, I mean, how? He looks like he was drawn, like he was printed on a 3D printer. That's what he looks like. But
he does have scarecrow.
God damn, bro.
Scarecrow qualities.
You just hang him on a hook in the field, and the crows don't come around your corn, right?
Yeah.
But it's just it's shit like that, right? Like laughter and scaring, I think.
Now, question is, does a funny woman have the same effects, and can she be as effective in situations as a funny man?
Well, I think they can, but I don't think it's as renowned as it is with male comedians, because women are more secure in their emotions, where they can say laughter will fix the situation. Where
This is the reason I say that, right? Only because men going into situations where they're meeting new people or interacting with the opposite sex, men are, people are readily closed up to men. Mm-hmm. They're like they're readily not willing to accept a new man in their life.
It's the pack mentality, right?
Well, not even the pack, but the man is not. The man has to earn things. Right. Whereas a woman, especially a beautiful woman, has the beauty of a woman disarms anyway. The beauty of a woman attracts anyway.
Unless it's a group full of women.
Actually, that's not the case either. You send a beautiful woman into a room full of other beautiful women, and they will flock to her if her beauty being a magnet, right? Because beautiful women love other beautiful women. I mean, that's just
right, because there's no competition. You send Miss USA into a Curves.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say.
Oh, people are
immediately they're going to be like, "This bitch, what is she doing here?"
They are not. Women are not as catty, outwardly, as overtly. We don't know the word is
right. But if they have a group of people that they have been connected with,
mm-hmm. Right.
And a beautiful woman walks in, they're going to be like
that group of. I believe from what I've seen. That group of women will be ready to swallow up a girl who comes in as beautiful, or because women are accepting in that way, right?
That's what I was trying to say earlier. Like men are more
like combative,
right?
So we have a default defense against other men,
right?
And I think it takes that laughter. It takes the exchange, right? It takes. Let's talk about how men enter into these Greek situations in college. Like that is the ideal. That's kind of like the most pragmatic way to describe men in any situation.
Right, to break them down to then build them back up again.
Well, not even break them down.
Well, I mean, you go through hazing, right?
In order for you to be accepted by a group of men,
you gotta
you better
be mistreated.
Be mistreated. Right. Exactly. You're going to be mistreated. You're going to be on the low of the totem pole before you can, climb the ranks within that group, right? And it's in any a man entering into a corporate body, corporate structure, a man entering into an organized gang, a man entering into a sports team, right? there's always this, you have a lot of work to do, young man, type attitude towards a man in order for them to be accepted into groups. Whereas a woman, so, that's why I say comedy, laughter, and the ability to draw that, it's a man's weapon.
Right.
Right? It doesn't mean as much for a woman to wield that weapon.
Right. Well, you asked about females that would be funny, right?
Yeah.
So
does it?
I think that
is it the same?
Female comedians.
Does it work for them in the same way?
It does only, and at least in my eyes. This is only my opinion. Who the fuck am I, right? So
who the fuck are we?
In my opinion, female comics are more outrageous and more dirty because I feel like they think they have to be dirtier than the dirtiest male comic to be like the Whitney Cummings, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That blonde lady, I forget her name. Chelsea Handler. Like, you have to go out and say things like how many dudes you slept with, and which is different, and this, and this, in order to be, okay, she can hang with the fellas.
Right.
And because there are women in my life that are funny. I'm funnier, but they
all the women in Steven's life. You hear what he says? He's giving you zero respect.
Oh, they know. I'm funniest. I'm the funniest. Could be the funniest in the family.
Okay.
But again, it's my sarcasm, and it's the delivery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I think female comedians, when they're wholesome and like down to earth, I think it's not as effective for their careers as if a female comedian who's just filthy. Because you're like, oh, she talks like that on stage? What does she talk like at home? You know what I mean? So,
but this ability to wield the weapon of laughter, is it, like we've spoke on Robin Williams a few times, right?
Right.
Could it be a mask? Is it a mask? Is it always a mask?
I mean, Robin Williams is a perfect example of what could be identified as using comedy as a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch his old movies, there are in the like Mrs. Doubtfire, right? That's a comedy by all definitions of a movie. But in the serious portions of that movie, you can see it in his eyes when he's talking about wanting to be with his kids and he's in that courtroom. You can see that, like, the reality behind the words that are scripted that he's saying. There's something, again, I think you have to be a little bit nuts to be somebody who volunteers to go on stage in front of a group of strangers.
5150 nuts or just have mental issues?
Just have a little bit of something wrong with you.
Okay.
Right? Like a little bit, some wire's not connected somewhere.
So wait. So with your ability to wield the laughter, are you claiming there's maybe something wrong with you?
100%.
Okay.
But
this is truthfulness here on the Dome. We are delving deep into Steven.
Because why bullshit?
Acevedo.
I mean, but the thing is like I don't think that I would ever have the balls to go on stage and tell jokes in a room full of strangers because they don't get me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I'd have to have 2/3 of my family in the audience to get laughter, I think. You know what I mean? Or just be so over the top, like raunchy with it that people would be like, oh wow, that's fucking off the wall. But I mean, everybody's has situations. I just know how to, like I said, take the severity of it out, and against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. Mark Twain.
I like how you do that, bro. I like how you do that. I mean, look, we've brought you, the truths that we've discovered, right? Laughter being today's installment, but it's the collection of all of these ideas, right? The collection of all these ideas. People have recorded them time and time again in the past, in many different forms. You've seen comedians of many different generations. If you've bothered to, or if you love stand-up comedy at all, you've seen them. I believe in the '60s probably were the earliest comedians, stand-up comedians as we know them today.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, you gotta look.
It's
You gotta
not
look
that-
at like Lucille Ball, right? She was a weekly physical comedian.
But like as far as like stand-up,
but
I mean, but I guess that
you don't. There was probably not anybody going on stage telling jokes.
Right.
When I Love Lucy was on TV.
But you know what? Like Laurel and Hardy, you could even,
And that was a TV show.
Yeah.
I
not
think
a stand-up comedian.
I think the fact that I Love Lucy is still on television
Mm-hmm.
to this day, reruns, I think that shows the fact that she was probably one of comedy's greatest additions.
Sure.
I mean, that show was made in 1952, and they're streaming it.
Right.
They're reruns.
Right.
It's
They made
on
a
TV.
movie.
They made a movie about it.
Right.
And to withstand all this bullshit that's going on in the world and still play I Love Lucy episodes and still have it. I mean, I laugh at that shit all the time.
Dude, me too.
I mean, that was a funny lady. And it was,
what do they call it? Slapstick comedy?
yeah, it's basically, if there's no I Love Lucy, I firmly believe there's no Jim Carrey. Because
Fair enough.
it's kind of the same physical humor, right?
What about Charlie Chaplin? Couldn't you have
Maybe.
considered him?
Maybe,
that
but it
same-
was that was silent, right? It was a silent
Yeah.
movie guy,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit physical comedy, but there was no. I'm not saying it didn't take talent to be a silent actor because it probably does.
Chris Farley, probably in that same.
But again, yeah, if there's no I Love Lucy, and there's no that initial person to say, oh shit,
Three Stooges.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, where are you at with that? But I think it all starts at least with her idea of what was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, and you watch that show now, and it's hard to believe that they still play it based on the fact that it's sexist now in the eyes of the world, right? They smoked in front of the kid. They smoked in front of her when she was pregnant. Fred was old, Ethel was not. It's just like that kind of shit. Like, whoa, like you're canceling everything else. You're canceling Mrs. Butterworth. How is Lucy
right.
past that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think there's a lot to be said for, again, the power of laughter and making people just forget. And she did a great job, at least for a half hour a day,
Oh, yeah.
from 1952 to 2023.
Still going.
That shit's still on TV.
Still going.
Still on. The Golden Girls.
Oh my God.
I mean, that kind of shit. There's
Yeah.
never going to be shows like that again. There's
Yeah.
never going to be somebody that's going to be groundbreaking.
And each
because it's
character
already
has
happened.
their style of comedy.
Right.
Right. Rose with her innocent.
Right.
Right.
Her dopiness.
The dope. Yeah, it's the dopey comedy.
Right.
Right. Like she'll say some of the dopiest things. The ditzy.
Right.
Yeah. And then you'll laughing like crazy. And then
Right.
you've got the mother. What's the mother's name again?
Sophia.
Sophia's got this gangster,
Right. Because she don't give a shit.
comic delivery, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, hilarious. I think she's the funniest of
100%.
all of them.
And Betty White
Although
was
Dorothy,
Dorothy.
she's definitely.
But again, she was on show before that. She was on Maude.
mm-hmm.
She was on these all different shows, and again, you're never gonna have a groundbreaking episode of like that. It's never gonna happen again. It's already happened,
Right.
and you're only copying what
Yeah.
other people did.
I think you got that combination of characters.
Yeah.
That just,
I mean, that's comedy gold, right? I mean,
I'd say so.
I Love Lucy is probably goes down as one of the top
What
5.
about the Jeffersons?
Again, after Lucy.
My God.
After Lucy.
Yeah, after Lucy.
What was on?
Come on, man.
I don't know.
Weezy.
I don't know about
George
what was
and
on
Weezy.
then, but you don't know what was competing with I Love Lucy, and the fact that she had like a Cuban husband that had an accent.
Right.
That probably back
Right.
then people were like, "Who the fuck? Why is this guy on TV?"
Right.
And then you look at all that shit that was going against them. The one thing that broke everybody's walls down was the laughter.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So you can't say laughter
And
doesn't
all
work.
of the scandals that were behind the scenes.
Right.
Right. You heard about the abuse. I'm sure these stories came out back then.
Right.
Right. But it was such a funny experience to watch I Love Lucy that
Right.
you're like, no.
I mean, you look at episodes, like where she gets jealous of a girl dancing in his show.
Right.
Because he could be having an affair with her. In real life, he was having an affair
Right.
left and right on her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So for her, again, that's another example of how you put your own issue aside
Right.
to film an episode that's going to make the world laugh. So,
It's a service.
right, it is,
It's a community service to make people laugh.
you just cannot ever duplicate that again, because the first is a first, and anything else is a follower. Right?
So with that, who is the funniest person in history, would you say?
In the history of movies and television,
Comedians.
just comedians.
Just comedy. Who brought the most comedy? Period. Who brought what single person can you point to that brings the most laughter?
I'm gonna go with my original thing. I would say Lucille Ball.
Okay.
Maybe Charlie Chaplin, but I don't know shit about that guy.
Now
so.
Charlie Chaplin, I mean, he was funny. Like you were laughing at him, but I think the gauge. I don't think that gauge.
I mean, do
allowed him to compete.
we have people in this world?
Like in my mind, like people like Red Fox. Red Fox made me laugh
Right.
like a motherfucker.
But do you have him if there's no Lucy?
No,
You
well,
just
I
don't
mean,
know?
well,
You just don't know?
He's a different comedy.
Understood, but
Yeah.
you don't. Maybe you
That's-
don't have
I don't
that
know.
show because of.
But I don't know if stand-up comedians are branches from the Lucille Ball.
Well, that was definitely a comedy show.
Yeah, it's a.
I mean, there was studio audience laughter.
Sure.
There was, you could see certain episodes, you could see themselves laughing. And, there's so many things behind the scenes about I Love Lucy. Like, the guy, Desi Arnaz, was the first to use multiple camera shots. The first to use floating cameras so the audience could see everything.
Right.
The first to do reruns. The first to do a look back episode. The first.
Wow.
Dude was a fucking genius.
Definitely was.
And you
That
maybe
production company
don't
It
have
was probably the most successful production company of its time.
correct.
Yeah.
And they bought RK Studios for $23 million back then.
Damn.
So
Wow.
maybe without that show, maybe we don't have certain people, certain shows that you and I grew up with.
So you say Lucille Ball.
Uh-huh.
Let's go with the number two. Who's the number two?
Number two, you got to go with. I don't know a whole lot about Red Fox, but the clips I've seen, Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker. Okay.
But that's not a stand-up. What's his name?
No.
Carol Channing.
Yeah, not
That's not his name. That's way off. Carol something.
But Archie Bunker is definitely not a. Maybe he did have some stand-up comedy.
I don't think it's stand-up.
No idea.
My mom's gonna crucify me on that Carol Channing thing. That's 100% wrong.
Okay.
But I mean, you got to go all the old people shows, right? I Love Lucy's, All in the Family, The Jeffersons,
Good Times.
Good Times. But again, even Good Times had some serious episodes,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't all comedy,
But they brought a little bit of laughter in every episode.
right?
In it,
That's true.
With J.J. Walker, I don't think. I just think his look.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, he was a funny looking guy.
Right. I just wonder if you'd ask people like Will Ferrell, Jim Carrey, you know, Zach Galifianakis, all these guys that do nothing but comedy movies, Kevin Hart, if you ask them that same question, if they don't, at least half of them don't say, well, I Love Lucy was probably one of the funniest shows in the history of television. Because how many different variations of, once they stopped doing I Love Lucy, the Lucy Show was around.
Right.
And then you had people like Arnold Schwarzenegger on that show. Not consistently, but guest stars.
Right.
Like people who were huge in that time, guest show on that because it was her.
Right.
So
yeah, she was
take
definitely
Lucille Ball.
She was definitely a Hollywood impact.
Right.
An impact on Hollywood.
Right.
She was.
I mean, massively, right? Because again, you don't know where we would be comic-wise if that show never happened. If they said, we don't want Desi Arnaz, we want some white guy on there, you don't know how successful it is. You don't know how if it only goes 4 episodes and gets canceled.
Right. Because he brought a little bit of the comedy.
Oh, they all did.
Yeah.
All 4 of them. I think the guy that played Fred might be one of the most underrated characters on television.
His sarcasm.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Because some of the shit that he does is just like, you're like, wow. But and then you think he was drunk half the time, right?
Right.
And he was a
came out that not a single episode, not a single filming.
Right. And you can see towards the end where he was just shaking. Like you could see certain things, and then when you I watched that movie. I watched that movie, Being the Ricardos or whatever the hell it is, and then you watch that episode, and that episode used to be one of the good ones. But when you watch the movie, you see somebody else's perception of what Lucille Ball was. It kind of ruins that episode because you tend to realize that they didn't want to reshoot, right? So then you start paying attention to them like fumbling over words, like on the production, like on the ones that you and I see, you see them like fumble over a word and then get it right and then keep going. You see them laughing in the back. You see that kind of stuff, and it was all because Desi Arnaz did not want to reshoot. It was too expensive.
Wow.
I mean, dude was a genius. He was an asshole. He was a cheater. He was a wife beater, whatever he was. But, I mean, we don't have half the stuff we have.
But he was a driver.
But he was a driver.
He was definitely a driver. And you know what's funny is a lot of people, right? A lot of drivers, they have that personality.
Right.
That do whatever the fuck they want to do, but get it done, right? Type of approach to life, right? And then because they have that get it done, right? It's almost as if all of the other stuff, scandal that they involve themselves into,
right?
That they involve themselves with, in their minds, it should be forgotten because of all of the work that they do.
Until what they do ends.
Right.
And then
look at a guy like Hugh Hefner.
Right.
A driver, right? Drove this magazine concept from printing and publishing a magazine of nudes to it becoming this empire of videos and just he was a monster, right? As far as what he was able to accomplish. In that same breath, you can list all of the
well, it's the same thing as Weinstein, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a single person that didn't want to be in a Weinstein production until right. And
so me too.
Right. And until then, I mean, again, dude was a piece of shit, hands down. But you and I don't turn off a movie because it says Weinstein production.
Right.
You and I don't turn off Django.
I was watching a fucking Weinstein movie the other.
Django.
Right.
Hateful Eight, or not? Yeah, the Hateful Eight's a Weinstein production. Yeah. I think Pulp Fiction.
What was I watching the other day? You know me, forgetful of all these.
Shocking.
Yeah. Was a Weinstein production. Yeah, I mean, at some point, these people were considered uber successes. Right, and then they go down in flames as failures because of this. Desi Arnaz, on the other hand, maybe because that laughter is attached, to his legacy with Lucille Ball was never considered, because during his prime, during his best years on television, you did not.
Right. And there was no social media back then.
Right.
He would have been crucified if there was.
Right.
Because it wouldn't have been something to hide about the papers. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about later about I Love Lucy, but they probably are solely responsible for a lot of TV show success.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
So I guess this is an ode to Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
So Lucy.
If you only didn't smoke those cigarettes.
You've got zero explaining to do.
Hey, that was actually pretty good. Zero.
No explaining. Yeah, well, I mean, on that note, I think we should not finish this one out with a movie game.
Oh, we've been practicing? Because...
No, there's been a few...
Alright. Maybe we should try a new game.
What game are you...
7 Degrees of Separation, or 6 Degrees of Separation.
Well, how do you play
with
that?
Kevin Bacon.
How do you play that?
So you name somebody,
Okay.
and you go back and forth, and within 7 names, they're tied to Kevin Bacon somehow.
Let's run a preview.
All right, we'll try a preview. I'm probably doing this wrong, but my mom's probably doing that.
Okay.
So you name somebody like, I'll name somebody like, let's just say Tom Cruise,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And then any movie that anybody was in with Tom Cruise. So I would say Elizabeth Shue in Cocktail.
Okay.
And then I would say Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon.
Who?
Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon. And you got within 7 people, or you've directly related Tom Cruise to Kevin Bacon. Movie wise.
So you went from Tom Cruise
Tom Cruise
to
to Elizabeth Shue.
to
Tom
Kevin
Cruise.
Bacon.
Tom Cruise in Cocktail with
Okay.
Elizabeth Shue in Cocktail. Elizabeth Shue in Hollow Man
With Kevin Bacon. Holy shit! Then you would have to have some Kevin Bacon.
You'd have to know everybody's movies.
Shit.
So you're out. So let's just go to the movie game. I'll start
What an
with
ass. What an ass you are.
John Travolta.
John Travolta played in.
You see?
Hold on.
John Travolta. There's fucking thousands.
There's
of movies.
1,000 movies. Hold on. Let me
fucking
say a good one. Jesus Christ. John Travolta. Face Off.
Face Off. Okay. Gina Gershon.
Gina Gershon. Gina Gershon. What the fuck other movie did she play? Hold on, Gina Gershon, Gina Gershon.
I would say Time with Breach should be up.
Did she play in Training Day? Shit. Well, that was
You could have
terrible.
said Showgirls. You could have said that.
I bet there's like a million movies that I know she was in.
Uh-huh.
One more round and we'll call it quits.
All right. I'm gonna go with Kevin Bacon.
Footloose.
Shocking, you went there.
Really don't know any other movies he was in.
I just gave you one. I just gave you Hollow Man.
I don't know anybody
Footloose.
else. Hollow Man.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Okay. Sarah Jessica Parker. Let's see. I don't know. Sex in the City. Horrible.
Good. Kim Cattrall.
The Mannequin.
Andrew McCarthy.
Andrew McCarthy.
I'm just gonna get up and turn the camera off because you don't know any other.
And with that, we will see you on the next episode.
Peace.
Jesus Christ.